For the moms, I just want to say it all works out. It all works out. All the stressors that sleepless nights you had about your kids doing X, Y, and Z, it all works out. And I think as moms, our number one goal is to instill values and make sure our kids have really good, strong values. I see it in them now, and it's so beautiful. Now, do they have perfect lives? No, but I see the values in there. So don't worry, stop. I worried so much.
What were some of, just growing up with all those challenges and like them, doing what they want to do and them being them and expressing themselves? Did you guys have like non-negotiables or family values that you really leaned into? Like, okay, we're fine. We're fine if you do this, but not this. Like, what were
Yeah.
those massive strongholds for you guys?
For starters, let's go back to Paxton. I wanted to make sure that I raised a boy who would turn into a man that was kind and considerate to women, that knew how to speak and stay in relationships, didn't withdraw. So we did a lot of, like, when he would throw a tantrum, I would actually put him next to me and I was like, look me in the eye, because when you look me in the eye, that tells me that you're listening to me. And so there were so many times that I sat him down and I would sit on the floor with him. And I'm like, I know you want to run right now, but I really want you to just sit with me and let's talk about what you're feeling. So that was a non-negotiable. If there was a conflict, we didn't run from it. I did the same thing with Bodhi. Like, we sat and we worked it out. Another non-negotiable was health. Health was a priority. And so you and I have talked about this. Food, like, in our house, we're going to eat very clean food, and we don't bring bad food into the house. And when we go out of the house, we have different food rules because you're in the rest of the world with friends, et cetera. But our food has been such a high priority that before Bodhi went to college, and even Paxton, I was like, you have to understand, you're going to see what it feels like to eat that other food, and you're not going to love it. So let's talk about what we can do when you get into that spot. And so we've navigated those. But yeah, health was a non-negotiable. Resolving conflict with it was a non-negotiable. Those were kind of the biggies.
I imagine you surrounded yourself with like-minded community for the most part as you were raising the kids and eating a certain way in particular. How did you guys navigate if other parents or other families or other kids would talk about depriving them by not giving them pop, soda, whatever you want to call it, cake, all
Yeah.
the things that typical kids get to eat?
I remember one time there was, like, we were in the car and Bodhi was still in a car seat. So she was in the back. And so she must've been about 4. And I had dropped her off at a babysitter who had fed her a Twinkie or something like that. And so she says to me, at Monique's, they don't eat organic. Like, that was the only word she had. And I was like, yes, they don't. She's like, how come we can't not eat organic sometimes? Like, it was like her way of being like, why can't we do that? And so what I said was, here's what I know, Bodhi, is that I've done a lot of research on the foods we eat and how they make us feel. And I just want to make sure that we eat foods that make us feel really good. So not every family has done that research. And so this is why I have chosen to eat the foods and bring these foods into the house, is because I know they're going to make us feel the best. So I would always bring it back to, I've done the research. I love you so much. I want to make sure that you get the best food. So they didn't see it as a deprivation. They saw it as, oh, my mom's really smart. My mom actually is thinking this through. So when they're in that scenario, it wasn't as hard for them to navigate.
Mm-hmm. And then how did they do when they left the house? Did they stick to that kind of eating? Did they experiment? Did they drink? Did they do
Oh
other,
yeah.
maybe
Oh
not so
yeah.
healthy things?
No,
Or
they,
did
I
they
mean,
live this peaceful, organic, perfect life?
no, you know what, this is what I'm going to say is they went, 180 degrees opposite, because that's what you do. But they both are coming back to the values that I set for them. Bodhi's in her apartment for the first time, and, we're navigating how to get her the best food on the budget that she has. She's understanding how she feels when she eats out compared to being at home. So she's coming back to those roots. Paxton has actually got quite a knack for cooking. They both actually do. He'll go over to her house. This is another sweet mommy moment. He'll go over to her house and they cook together. And so he loves to cook. So he's now in his own apartment and he's learning, how do I buy food that is better? So they're coming back to it, but those like from, I don't know, 15 to 20, there's definitely a rebellion. And you just have to sort of sit tight because they'll come out the other side. If you laid the foundation, they'll come out the other side.
And what helped you during those years to get through? Because you didn't necessarily know it was going to work
Didn't
out.
know that. Yeah. Oh gosh. I feel like I future tripped so much. I think knowing the support of people who'd been through it really helped. Knowing that I was raised in a family where my mom was such a nutrition Nazi, that's the way I would call her. Like, we introduced rice cakes to the elementary school. Like, when everybody was eating Wonder Bread, my sister and I were bringing rice cakes to the school. This is in the 70s. Like, nobody ate rice cakes in the 70s. I saw my own trajectory. So I had the thought that maybe they would come out the other side. But for me personally, it was, talking to other parents, leaning into the support of other moms. And then what's really interesting with your kids at that age is their friends really matter. So as they chose new friend groups, I would look at those friend groups and be like, okay, we're good. This new friend group prioritizes health, prioritizes food. We're going to be fine. But when she was in college and she had friend groups that were very toxic emotionally and physically, that was where I was the most worried. And I would just always keep my eye out for who she was hanging out with. And I would compliment her if she hung out with somebody really awesome. I'd be like, oh, you know what? That relationship looks so fun. Like, I would try to really emphasize what that relationship might be doing for her. But yeah, those are the years friends really kick in.
Yeah, I remember, one of the things I've asked you because I've watched your kids come back and hang out at your home, even from a distance, just in conversation. What did you do to create that? Because I want that. I want to know my kids' friends.
Yeah.
I want to be kind of keeping an eye to make sure their values align. How did you instill that safe place for your kids that they enjoyed coming to? I know your home has been the house that their friends hung out at, they all
Yeah.
gravitated towards. So how did you create that?
It's such a great question. So the first thing is you have to be flexible. So when the friends come over, it was like, if the music got played a little loud, or as they became teenagers, they were staying up late in the backyard, maybe upsetting the neighbors. Like, we needed to find a rhythm with that and not be like, we're not the house that is like, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. We've been the house that is like, okay, so you want to do this. Let's see how we can make that work for everybody, including the neighbors, including us. So there was that. The second piece, when the friends would come over, I would chat with them just like they were my friends. Our house was packed with teenagers. And a lot of it is because we created a safe space. We've been more flexible and loving, and not the house that has a bazillion rules. We've really tried to set the tone that the more the merrier. You can come into our space. You are loved by everybody. You can feel comfortable here. You can be yourself. And that required, sometimes we had to put up with late nights. We had to put up with loud music. We had to put up with more kids in our house than we might want. I had to put up with dirty kitchens that I would wake up to in the morning. If you come into my house, my hardwood floors are completely decimated from all the amount of kids that have come in and out of our home. So I do not live in a designer home.
You can't when it's a home,
No.
right?
Right.
Yeah. I love that.
I would say now, as Bodhi and I are really entering into a new place with our relationship, and I'm seeing how the kids are building this beautiful adult life, I feel like, okay, what I did, the environment I created was good. But if we had had this conversation 4 years ago, I literally would walk around and people would say, "Oh, you're so successful." And I would say, "Not as a parent." I felt like I had failed as a mom for so many years. And a lot of that was because I judged myself. So much of my friend group are spectacular stay-at-home moms. And that's what my kids grew up around. And so I constantly felt like a mother failure. I
And
never feel like I did it right for my children.
a lot of those women are looking up at you and what you're doing and judging themselves as well. Like, it's
Yeah.
just this thing that we all do, and it doesn't serve anyone, and we continue to do it.
I
I'm
know.
so glad you're seeing the other side of it, because
Right.
we've been friends and I've kind of watched you through this journey while you were going through it. And
Yeah.
I know I'll go through it too.
For any moms that have teenagers out there, I mean, Bodhi was mean, like downright mean to me for years as she tried to navigate. And I think the way that I look at it is that she was trying to find her own identity. And when you have a very strong mom in the household, it's hard to find your own identity because you think you want to take on mom's identity. And yet, what she would tell me is, I can't live up to you. I can't be you. So we had a lot of years where she was like, well, you're a success, so then I must be a failure. And that was a lot of what happened in her college years. And we had so many tears, so much fighting. It was so hard. And now I look at us and I'm like, wow, we're really coming into this beautiful relationship. So for the moms that are struggling with a teenager, know they come out the other side, and you just have to keep your own sanity in it.
So huge. Good tips for sure.